serving up a warm dish of the Triad's culinary fare, here's your weekly helping of food, news, and views. This is The Man Who Ate the Town.
Hey folks, and welcome to episode 23 of The Man Who Ate the Town podcast. This is for the week of February the 6th through the 12th, 2017. My name is Tim Beeman, and I am opening the recipe box. I'm recording this episode of The Man Who Ate the Town at Test Pattern Studios. Test Pattern Studios is located on 7th Street in the Historic Arts District of downtown Winston-Salem. The Test Pattern Bar itself is right around the corner at 701 North Trade Street here in Winston-Salem. Check out their Facebook page for their calendar of events. You can look them up, facebook.com/testpatternbar. I actually will have my first official guest ever on this show today. Michael Hastings, the food editor for the Winston-Salem Journal, will be in to talk food and happenings with me. We'll talk food news if there's anything to mention during that conversation. But first, Foothills Brewing announced their new Hot Box, a 12-pack of 12-ounce bottles that will include their popular, dare I say, even famous IPAs and other hoppy beers. Of course, Hopium and Jade, their two mainstays, will be staples of the box. According to their blog, other rotating IPAs will include the Pilot Mountain Pale Ale, the Frostbite IPA, and Hop Job Session IPA, all according to which season it is, as some seem to worry about that when drinking beer. I do not allow the seasons to dictate my drinking habits or my eating habits. Another benefit of this box is you'll be able to get the Seeing Double IPA in 12-ounce bottles for the first time. Otherwise, they're only available in 22-ounce bombers. This box should be available for retail in the next week or so, from what I read on their blog. It will be available in supermarkets and other places you can purchase your Foothills brews. The big eat tonight, or this weekend, the 7th of February. This is the 5th and final week of this in Winston-Salem. In 2 weeks, I believe they start the one in Greensboro. I'm not quite sure I'll cover that one, but because I am the man who ate the town of Winston-Salem. Couple of things that have changed. Six and Vine's doing chicken marsala with onions, mushrooms, bacon, and tomato, and a marsala demi-glaze. Bernardin's is doing braised Australian lamb shank with curry, rainbow carrots, fingerling potato, and jasmine rice. Blue is doing grilled mahi with coconut rice, spinach, red curry, pineapple salad. Hutch and Harris is your choice of humorous hummus app or the Tasmania tuna app, free with the purchase of 2 entrees, only with purchase of 2 entrees. Jeffrey Adams crab stuffed salmon with onions, peppers, mashed potatoes, Brussels sprouts, and béarnaise sauce. Cranky's special tonight is sauerkraut smothered bone-in pork chop with fries. Mellow Mushrooms, 50% off bruschetta, 20% off large specialty pies. Miami Restaurant and Bar is doing the Media Noche sandwich, slow roasted pork, Swiss cheese, pickles, and yellow mustard on sweet bread, served with French fries. And I'm sure that's sweet bread, not sweetbreads. It's a whole different thing. Mooney's is doing garden chicken pita or garden pita with choice of hummus or French fries. 4th Street Filling Station is doing grilled salmon with lemon caper dill butter, wild rice, and sauteed vegetables. See. Tre None is doing pasta bolognese with beef and pork cooked in tomato sauce with fresh herbs and served over the homemade pasta of your choice. And Willow's special this week is Nashville hot chicken and waffles with blue cheese foam and fried arugula. Remember, those are eat-in only and not for takeout, and they're only while supplies last. When they're done, they're done. So, food holidays for this week. The 6th is Frozen Yogurt Day. 7th is Fettuccine Alfredo Day. The 8th is Molasses Bar Day, whatever that is. The 9th is National Pizza Day and National Bagels and Lox Day. That sounds good. The 10th is National Cream Cheese Brownie Day. The 11th is National Peppermint Patty Day and Don't Cry Over Spilled Milk Day. Okay. The 12th is National Plum Pudding Day. The 6th in food history, the 6th of February in 1617, Prospero Alpini died. He was an Italian physicist and botanist. He is said to have introduced coffee and bananas to Europe and have been the first to artificially fertilize date palms. On the 6th in 1829, Bollinger Rowden and company was established. Producers of Champagne Bollinger in the village of Ai in Champagne, France. The 6th in 1865, a horse meat banquet is held at the Grand Hotel in Paris. On the 6th in 1894, Ontario, Canada votes in favor of alcohol prohibition. Boo. On the 6th in 1914, Thurl Ravenscroft was born. He died in 2005. Many people may not recognize that name, but you certainly have heard him speak. He was the voice actor best known as the voice of Tony the Tiger in Kellogg's Frosted Flake commercials. They're great! They're great! On the 6th in 1937, Robert H. Brooks was born. He was the founder of Naturally Fresh Foods in 1966. He also helped create the Hooters restaurant chain. On the 6th in 1985, Perrier introduced Perrier with a twist of lemon, its first new product in 125 years. On the 8th in 1795, Friedlieb Ferdinand Runge was born. He was a German chemist who developed a method for obtaining sugar from beet juice. On the 8th in 1946, Felix Hoffmann died. He was the first who synthesized aspirin in 1897. On the 8th in 2014, the first McDonald's in Vietnam opened in Ho Chi Minh City. On the 9th in 1889, the United States Department of Agriculture, that's the USDA, was established as a cabinet-level agency. On the 9th in 1894, Hershey's Chocolate Company was founded as a subsidiary of Milton S. Hershey's Lancaster Caramel Company. On the 9th in 1960, Adolf Coors, grandson of the Coors Brewery founder, was kidnapped and held for ransom. Sadly, he was found shot to death later. On the 10th in 1846, Ira Remsen was born. He was an American chemist, co-discoverer in 1879 of saccharin, the artificial sweetener. Remember with Konstantin Fallberg, we've talked about that on the show. On the 10th in 1957, the styrofoam cooler was invented. On the 11th in 1802, Lydia Marie Frances Child was born. The American abolitionist and author of novels and children's books, she wrote books of advice for women, including The Frugal Housewife. On the 11th in 1922, Frederick Grant Banting announces the discovery of insulin used to treat diabetes at the University of Toronto with colleagues C.H. Best, J.B. Collop, and J.R.R. MacLeod. On the 11th in 1926, Paul Bocuse was born at Collonges au Mont d'Or in France. He was a legendary French chef known as one of the founders of Nouvelle Cuisine. He was named Chef of the Century by the Culinary Institute of America. He may still be alive. On the 11th in 1982, the Florida Strawberry Growers Association was founded. On the 12th in 1791, Peter Cooper was born. He was an American inventor. He also obtained the first patent for the manufacture of gelatin. In 1895, a cough syrup manufacturer by the name of Pearl B. Waite purchased the patent and developed a packaged gelatin dessert. Pearl Waite's wife, May David Waite, renamed it Jell-O. I didn't know it was that old. On the 12th in 1935, Georges Auguste Escoffier died. He was the Emperor of Chefs. He was known as the Emperor of Chefs. And on the 12th in 1971, Andrew Carmelini was born. He is an American chef and restaurateur. And on the 12th in 1976, a popular food coloring red dye number 2 was banned by the FDA because studies had shown it might cause cancer. Red M&Ms disappeared for 11 years because of this ban. All right, guys, this is my first official guest on this show, and I would like to welcome in the food editor, and I suppose you would just say food journalist for our local city daily, Winston-Salem Journal, Mr. Michael Hastings.
Thanks, Tim, and I am very flattered to be your first guest.
I am so glad that you're here because, I mean, when people think about food in this town, at least food knowledge, things that are going on, information, reporting, I mean, you are the food editor of our city daily. So my mother knows who Michael Hastings is. My mother makes sure she picks up the paper every Wednesday to make sure, I mean, she gets it every day, but she certainly looks forward to the food section on Wednesdays because that's when Michael's in there, she says. So, and she likes the little back and forth between you and me about onions and
yes,
and things like that. She goes, I saw your name in the paper.
We may have to talk more about onions today.
Yeah, we might. We can do that. We certainly can do that. So, Michael, again, welcome to, and thanks for being here. And what kind of food happenings are going on in Winston-Salem right now?
Well, you know, there's always restaurant openings. You know, the cool thing about the food beat is, you know, there's always something happening.
Yeah.
There's always some cook I never learned about. I just talked today to this woman who's 92 years old. She was born in Winston-Salem. She went to Reynolds High School. She went to Salem College. She taught in the public school system in Winston-Salem for 37 years, raised 3 boys, and she just put out a cookbook of like 600 recipes. You know, and we were having this great conversation. So I'm always meeting cool people who are interested in food, who are cooking, who are eating out, who are starting restaurants. Always new restaurants opening, always new shops opening.
Right.
I'm going to have a story next week about this cool little urban farm store that's opening down on Renolda Road.
Okay.
So, you know, it's never boring. There's always something going on.
So we're getting ready to lose Honey Pot.
That's going to be real kind of a sad loss because what a neat restaurant.
Yeah. So is that because of they try to do so much farm to table stuff and the prices there are, it's hard to be competitive with food distributors if you're a local farmer?
Well, you know, and that's a really interesting question because, you know, more and more restaurants are open to you know, buying local produce, buying local meats, and I think there's a certain segment of the, you know, dining population who wants that and who looks for that.
Yeah.
But
well, for me, sorry to interrupt, but
go.
For me, the places that I go that I know do that taste better. I'm not getting the stuff that's thrown in the freezer in a box truck and brought around from not that I'm putting any of the distributors down because I mean, they've done us a service for a long, long time. But to me, the food, when I know it comes from Harmony Ridge or Fair Share Farms or anything like that, then to me it just tastes better.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, there are a lot of arguments for eating local, you know, and some of those arguments are economic and stuff. But, you know, one of them is it's just going to be fresher. Mm-hmm. If it was harvested 3 miles down the road, it's going to, by nature, almost definitely going to be fresher than what was harvested in California and shipped all across the country. And so, you know, fresher is going to taste better.
Oh yeah,
that's just the fact.
And I think that, you know, we have this term we use in this country that I wish we could get away from, and it's organic. If you go to Europe.
Yeah.
Because, you know, my honeymoon and a couple other times we've been to Europe, and they go to the market every day.
Right.
The restaurants go to the market every day, buy what they're going to use that day, take it back to the restaurant that day, and prepare it that day.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, one of the reasons that all the food over there is so good. Even in England, where food's not that good.
Yes.
They have the stuff brought in every day. And they don't use organic because it is organic.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of food lovers, you know, and people like myself will, you know, make the argument of don't focus so much on organic, focus on what's fresh, what's local, and knowing where it came from.
Yeah.
You knowing where it came from is a lot, you know, and the whole thing about organic, you know, and to a certain extent, the U.S. Department of Agriculture did the consumers a disservice by setting up the certified organic program because there's a lot of paperwork and there's a lot of expense involved. It's not huge, but it can add up to a couple $1,000s, which for a small farmer is a significant chunk of cash. And so there are a lot of farmers who are growing things the right way. They're looking after their environment. They're not using pesticides unnecessarily. They're watching out that they're not eroding. They're not causing problems with the soil. They're doing things the right way. They're growing things sustainably.
Right.
But maybe they are legally blocked from calling themselves organic without going through the certification process with the Department of Agriculture. So, I definitely focus on what's fresh. Focus on knowing where it came from. If you meet the farmer and you have a relationship with that farmer, you can talk with them and you can feel good about what you're eating.
Yeah. I have, in the last couple of years, through this podcast and blog and through the restaurants that I hang out with a lot and the chefs that I've become really good friends with, I have also in turn met a lot of the farmers and the growers and the producers, and they're swell people. I mean, they're lovely and kind, and they produce fantastic food or food product. The chefs are the ones that take care of the making it fantastic, but it starts in a good place, and these people are trying to make their living doing that. And I try my best. And as we just mentioned, eating fresh and eating healthy is expensive sometimes, and
it can be.
But you have to have a trade-off. What's worth it to you the most? And if you can afford it, certainly I would recommend eating that way.
Yeah, and back to your question about the Honey Pot, they were doing a lot of local food. They were a small restaurant, not a lot of seats in there. They were struggling financially, and Bote owners put up the question and said, well, we weren't doing takeout, we weren't doing catering, which can be very lucrative for a restaurant, can help keep it afloat. But that question does come up of, if I as a restaurateur want to serve, 25% of my food costs local, 50%, what does that do to my food costs? And can I, do I pass that cost on to the consumers and raise prices, or I try to keep my entrees prices the same as my neighbor who's not buying local food? And what does that mean for my bottom line? And can I survive as a restaurant? There are people on both sides of the argument who says, hey, local food really isn't any more expensive. And then there's others who say, gosh, there is no way I can afford, I'm going through X number of cases of tomatoes in the summer. I can't afford to buy, local tomatoes that they want to charge me $2 a pound for.
Right.
So, I don't think the debate has been won or lost by either side yet, but it's a big question for sure. And
it's really just an economic balancing act for everybody involved, all the way down to the people who are eating it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Am I going to pay that? And truthfully, I will, but within reason. There are some restaurants that I would love to eat at more often around town. I just can't afford to.
Absolutely.
But there are some that I really probably should eat somewhere else, but I just love eating there for the same reason. It's just money.
That's right.
But that's just how I do. And people who look at my Instagram posts know where it is that I'm eating most of the time. And I could probably save a few dollars eating somewhere else, but I just love eating there.
And I think a lot of people are thinking the same way you're thinking, Tim. So it's like, how much money do I have to spend on eating out this month? And this month I have a lot, so maybe I'll splurge, or this month I don't. And hey, sometimes maybe I want to go to the junkie place just because I like the junkie place, and I crave a hot dog or whatever it might be.
There is nothing wrong with a really good greasy spoon.
That's
I'll be
right.
honest with you. So what else is going on in Winston?
Oh boy. Well, this urban farm store, it's called Colony Urban Farm Store. It's not a food store per se, but it's kind of they carry food, but they also have gardening supplies. But the whole concept of urban farm is, people who want to do pretty intensive gardening and food production in their small backyard.
Right.
So, a great example of this is chicken coops. Raising chickens to have fresh eggs, which you can do with certain limitations in the city of Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
Another great example that's becoming popular is beekeeping.
Oh yeah.
So this store will sell the hive bodies, like the boxes,
Right.
for beekeeping, and you can buy the masks and the suits and all the jazz.
Yeah,
you can
the
buy
steamers
you can buy the they'll sell chicken coops. They'll have they have a lot of organic seeds and starter plants for just growing vegetables. They have things like mushroom kits, yogurt kits, cheese kits, and then there's the food. They have fresh eggs in there, and they're going to have fresh cheese. They were telling me about this farm in Salisbury that I need to go visit, called Fading D Farm, that they raises water buffalo.
Wow.
So you've heard of buffalo mozzarella. The traditional Italian mozzarella is made from buffalo milk as opposed to cow's milk.
Right.
Which is a little bit richer.
Right.
and so gives the cheese that little oomph from a little extra fat content. So they're going to carry this water buffalo cheese down at the store, and then the really cool thing about the food,
As if the rest of that wasn't cool.
The coolest,
You
the
could
coolest
tell
thing.
the two food geeks here sitting there just geeking out over this stuff.
Oh, you got to check this out. Is the honey? They're carrying like 30 different varieties of honey. A lot of it is North Carolina honey, but they also have honeys from France, Spain, Mexico, all over the place. But they have 30 different varieties of honey. And I'll tell you this: I went down. They did a little tasting for me, a honey tasting. Like you've done wine tastings. We're doing a honey tasting. And
I would love to do that. My last name is Beeman.
yeah, and it was really cool. And so I mean, these honeys, they were like, from pale yellow to like as dark as molasses, and some had lavender, and some had rosemary, and they have infused honeys. They had a bourbon infused honey that I'm sure you will want to check out,
yes.
Tim.
Oh yes.
But they even had like a Meyer lemon infused honey, and I think a chocolate lemon infused honey, and they have honey on tap. So they have these cool, they call them crafts, but they're almost like silo. These clear, conical or cylindrical things that are, maybe 4 feet tall, filled with honey on tap. One of which was like a local wildflower honey that was produced right over in somebody's backyard in Sherwood Forest neighborhood, right?
Wow,
so
okay,
like
cool.
3 miles away.
Yeah.
And so you can get honey on tap in bulk at this store, and I just thought that was so cool.
That is awesome. And a lot of people don't realize the benefits of eating local honey that helps with your immune system, because if you have allergy problems, a lot of times it's pollen, and local honey, you're actually basically like an allergy shot. You're giving yourself a little bit of that, and it helps fight allergies of local pollen.
Absolutely. A lot of people hold with some great benefits to eating local honey. And, one of the things the owners were talking to me too is, the importance of bees. They said there's statistics that, bees are associated with, pollinating like 2/3 of the world's food supply. All these plants and trees need bees to be pollinated. So support your local beekeeper, buy some honey, keep bees, and this is going to be a cool store. I hope they take off.
I hope they do too. And where are they going to be located?
It's right down on Renolda Road, 1100 Renolda Road. So it's in the same building as Fabian's.
Okay.
Where the old Minglewood Farm florist used to be.
Okay.
Across the street from the children's home.
Right down from Tommy Priest's.
Right next
not
to
Cranky now, but Airstream Coffee Park.
Right, just
Airstream.
50 yards down from the Airstream.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. And I'm also excited about the opening of Wise Man Brewing.
Oh yes. Were you there? Have you been there yet?
Yes, I went down. I went on opening day, which was
Saturday the
Um,
28th.
Yeah, so a week ago, Saturday, a week and a half ago, and I'm telling you, it was a mob scene down there.
Oh, yeah.
That place, there was a 30-minute line to get beers, and they had hundreds of people. It's a pretty big space in there, and that warehouse, that 1929 Angelo Brothers
yeah.
wholesale warehouse, that brick building, which they pretty much had to gut. But they did a really good job, and they repurposed a lot of the wood and things. So they've
And the
got
glass, too. A lot of the glass
Yes.
wall in there came from the glass that was pre-existing.
If you look on the, I love the. If you check out where they the chalk, the kind of board where they write what the beers are.
Yeah.
It's got that colored glass.
Yeah.
And so the frames of it were actually window frames they took out of the windows, and then the colored glass, which is this weird glass. It's not only colored, but it's got chicken wire in it. It was quote unquote security glass
Sure.
to keep people from breaking in.
Yeah.
But it's in all different colors, like blue, yellow, and green. But that was also from the upper story of the building, original building. And they were doing some cool beers. I really liked. They had this dry hopped IPA called Mountain Calling.
Yeah.
That I thought was really good fine beer.
I was there. I went way before they even had electricity to do a little talk with them, and I had them on the Less Desirables.
Okay.
Before they came on the show the day after they got electricity in the building. So Sam Victory, the brewer, had to make stuff at home to bring to us in growlers for us to try on the show.
Yeah.
I went the Tuesday before they opened. Harvey Williams, the bar manager, asked me to come up there, so I went up there, and I had the cream ale.
Yes.
Which I loved because you could taste the grain and the wheat in there, and I mean it was like it tasted like a farmhouse cream ale.
Yeah.
And then I also tried their hashtag triple IPA. They did a collaboration with D9 Brewing,
Right.
out of, I think, Cary. Is that where D9 is?
I'm not sure. They're definitely a North Carolina brewery.
Yeah. But they had done that collaboration, and that night they were out of both, because we went the 28th too, but we went at like 10:15 that night.
Okay.
And there were 200 to 300 people there. Laney Pope was there. Dan Bessie was there. There were people there.
Yeah.
And there, you're right. There was it was about 30 minutes wait.
I am amazed that they had any beer left at 10 o'clock at night.
Well, I don't know if you saw the next day they showed their empty keg stack, and there were probably about 40 of them out there, because they were going through not only their own but the guest taps that they had
right,
too.
because they've got 16 taps down there, so they had a lot of guest taps. They had Bull City cider from Lexington,
Yep.
and a bunch of other stuff. So, but I thought their first, I had those same beers when I went on Saturday, and I thought they're off to a really good start.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to believe they are only the fourth craft brewer in Winston. You know, Foothills, of course, has been here the longest, and they've got a pretty good statewide presence now with, supermarket distribution and everything. They're really going strong.
Right.
And we got Hoots, and we got Small Batch. But, Wise Man is only the fourth, because you look at, like, smaller cities elsewhere, Asheville being a great example, much smaller than Winston-Salem. Now, hey, Asheville's a pretty hip town.
It is.
But they've got like 20 craft breweries.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're playing catch up a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't need 20, but hey, I'm so
would
happy
take
to
20.
have Wise Man. I'm so happy to have Wise Man here, and seeing that crowd, it's obvious that the market's ready for more brewers.
And there's a new one coming right around the corner.
Oh. Well, you know something I know. Great.
Yeah, I don't know the name of it yet, but I was talking to the owner of the building, and
Cool.
It's going to be right beside, the open market there.
Yeah.
It's not turned out the way they wanted it to, so they're actually going to build that up and actually put a new craft brewery
So they're
in
going
there.
to fill in the courtyard.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just the empty market spot, not the courtyard itself, but the where the shed is, where it says Big Winston on it.
Yes, right.
But it's going to be right beside Broad Branch Distilling.
So we'll have a distiller and a brewer right next to it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And the funny thing is the same people own Wise Men Building as well, so they're just making a niche for bringing that stuff in, which is good for us, I think, for beer drinkers
Absolutely.
and those who like it.
And, and it's so great to see this end of town too. Wise Man's over there on, right off of MLK, but
what used to be North Main Street there.
Right. What used to be North. Yeah. So they that was like the dead end of, they're right next to the railroad tracks. Yeah. And so that was part of North Main Street, but they renamed it Angelo Brothers Avenue.
Yeah. And that was the city's doing, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Because they wanted to, because Angelo Brothers was there since the 20s into the early 2000s.
Yeah, it was a big landmark for years. But it's so great to see this part of North Trade and all this area being developed. And I'm looking forward to the same thing happening down the Innovation Quarter.
Yeah.
Cranky's has been, was turned out to be a pioneer in settling that area. And now that, Wake Forest is coming in there with the biotech stuff, that place is set for some bars and restaurants down there, I think.
Yeah, that's the next big spot. And I love all this stuff that's going on around here. I mean, it took a long time for the downtown area to get where anybody wanted to be here. And now it's just, things are popping up left and right. And for those of us who waited for so long, this is a wonderful thing.
It was amazing. People trying to, several mayors before Alan joins, and city council, tried to renovate downtown, and just effort after effort failed. And I don't know why exactly the last 10 years it really clicked. I like to think in part because of the Restaurant Row program that the city started, where they really, really encouraged restaurants to open downtown and gave them incentive by, those low interest loans.
Right. Yeah.
I think I like to think that was a big part of it.
Although Sweet Potatoes was here before and Six and Vine was here before, I really credit Finnegan's Wake with opening this area of town. Yeah. Once that got there, and there was actually an Irish pub that this town has not seen like that, and I don't know if ever, that opened up people to come to Trade Street, which was still, even with Sweet Potatoes and Six and Vine, shady.
Yes.
And once Finnegan's got there, it was like, it's okay to be here.
It's really kind of interesting, and you got to give the artists, I think, some credit, because Sweet Potatoes probably would have never opened on Trade Street without the Downtown District Arts Association, with all the artist studios. And once they started the gallery hop, they started, they at least once a month there was good foot traffic.
Yeah, of course.
On Trade Street, and then. Then when Chris Barnes and his wife Kathleen decided to open Six and Vine, and when people saw how busy that restaurant was, like immediately, and how busy the bar part of the restaurant was immediately, that really opened the floodgates for, the Silver Moon, for Finnegan's Wake, and of course, and then for the renovating that's gone on the northern end of the street for Mary's to move down here and everything else. It's
Mary's,
just,
and then Black Mountain Chocolate came into town to there, and the distillery that's in there now. I mean, there is so much that this. I just love the growth. I mean, I could go on saying that forever, but it's just the growth that we've gone through.
It's really been amazing.
It's really
been amazing.
Any other news that's coming that you can leak if we don't already know?
I don't think I have any other big scoops at the moment. I think we will. I'm hoping to see somebody step up and do something fun in the honeypot space.
I know someone looked at it yesterday.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they're going to take it, but someone looked.
It's a great little space. I think it has to be the right kind of restaurant needs to go in there to make it work. But it's a cool little space, and it's really right in the heart of 4th Street, right next to Tate's Crafts, craft cocktails. So it's a good location. It's a good location.
Are there any national trends that you see becoming more prominent in Winston that may not already be here?
Well, the folks down at the Urban Farm Store were talking about they lived for years in Denver, and this whole thing about urban farming is taken off in the big cities, and and a few people have gotten hip to it, and are doing chicken coops and stuff in their backyard. But I think that's a big thing, a national thing that's kind of finally filtering down to here. I still would like to see more ethnic restaurants in Winston-Salem. I always feel like we're playing catch up with everybody else. Why don't we have a serious Vietnamese restaurant? Why don't we have a Korean restaurant? Why don't we have
Ramen.
a ramen place? Why don't we have some Ethiopian food?
But my thing with that is I wish we had it too. But as inclusive as we like our city to be, sometimes with that stuff, people are not inclusive or exclusive when it comes to the things that they'll go out and eat. Now, Greensboro has a lot of ethnic restaurants.
Greensboro has always been that way. Really, gosh, in the 80s they had a handful of Thai and Vietnamese restaurants.
Yeah.
That were going strong. Greensboro has always been strong in the ethnic restaurant field. Why Winston is not, but it's okay. But I'll tell you, every time an ethnic restaurant opens in Winston, the people flock to it. So I think the market wants it and will bear it. Just takes a restaurateur with the money and vision to come in and do it,
And patience. I think also as a community, we need to be more patient. Because I didn't like that first time I had that. Well, especially if it's a brand new restaurant, I don't ever expect a restaurant to get it right the first time I'm in there if they just opened.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people are fickle, and I understand they're paying their hard-earned money for that. But still, you've got to. Don't go right away. Wait a couple of weeks. Let them work the kinks out with their new servers, their new products, all that stuff. But I just think that we need a little more open mind in this town about how to go about getting those restaurants when they come and how to keep them here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I just think it's exclusion, like I said, that drives them away or keeps them away. And we have that reputation, and that's hard to get over.
Right, but I do think things are slowly, steadily getting better.
I do agree,
and I see that trend continuing. So I'm optimistic.
Oh, me too. I really want to be there. I'm just playing the devil's advocate there. That it really takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to have a good food community too.
Sure,
because this food community is our child in a way.
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you some of the probably the prominent questions that I get as a food writer. What's your favorite food? Not restaurant, but your favorite food. Oh, God. Onions.
They're one of my favorites. I could not survive without onions. I could not cook without onions, But, I'll tell you right now, I'm really big on avocado. So I'll eat avocado any time of day. Avocado toast, if you have not tried avocado toast, toast some bread, spread some avocado on it, drizzle a little olive oil, salt and pepper, maybe a squeeze of lime or lemon. Oh, God, that's just heaven to me.
One of the staples of whenever I get invited to parties, they know I'm always going to bring guacamole. I was at a Super Bowl party this weekend, and I couldn't take it because I'd had some some avocados there, and they were overripe.
Oh.
I mean, blackening. And I went out and threw one into the yard, the one I hadn't cut into yet. And as soon as it hit into my backyard, because I live in the city limits, but I'm on 20 acres of land in the city limits.
Oh, my God.
So I threw it up into the woods, and as soon as it hit the ground, it exploded. That's how overripe it was. So I ran to Super Compare Foods to get
the best place in town to buy avocados.
Yes, but they were all underripe. They were all very hard. I couldn't even get my knife through them, so I couldn't take any. But and believe it or not, my guacamole recipe does include onions. Actually, half an onion in there that I chopped the crap out of, and it's just chop it right up. If I'm using either the slap chop or the knife.
Well, good for you. And I obviously do use onions. I make a great guac, but yeah, onions. So onions, lime, jalapeno, salt, and a little cilantro. But I grate my onion.
Okay.
I like on the cheese grater.
Yeah.
So that because I don't want to be biting. With guacamole, I don't really want to be biting into pieces of onion. I want that onion flavor to spread. And if you grate the onion, not only do you get small pieces, but you get juice.
Yeah.
So that you really kind of spread the flavor out. And for those people who don't like, some people freak out. It's more about seeing and
that's me.
and the texture of the onion in their mouth.
That's my
so
problem.
if you grate the onion and they don't see it, but it's a little bit, it's the flavor's in there, but obviously it's not an onion dish, so you're not like eating onion.
Yeah.
They can eat it that way.
Well, the rub is, how I feel about onions. I love onion flavor.
So it is a textural thing for you.
It's a textural thing.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I can hear it whenever I'm eating, and I can't stand that. So I don't mind it if I like onion powder, onion salt, diced onions, as long as it's very like minced.
Yeah.
I'm talking minuscule.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try the
grater.
grating.
Try the
'Cause
grater.
I just bought a new box grater this weekend, and I'm going to try making some spaghetti sauce with taking a tomato and doing that same thing, and it'll go all the way down to the skin.
Yeah.
So
it works great. I do it for cooking too.
yeah.
Grating the onion works great.
All right, I'll try that. What are some of the restaurants in this town that you think are doing good things? Not necessarily your favorite restaurants, because I know we're in the public light with that. So,
right.
Just some that you think are doing good things in town.
Well, I love the creativity of Harrison Littell at Honey Pot, and Matt Pleasance before him. I thought they were doing not only their use of local food, but also the creativity of their dish was just really great. I love it when restaurants are doing charcuterie, like we'll see down at Meridian, or John Bobby at Nobles loves to work with
And I know that Tim Graninetti and Alan, the guy who owns Salem Smiles, and
Alan Miller.
They actually Tim and Alan took a charcuterie class together.
Yeah.
In Raleigh, and they are priming to do their own.
Yeah,
and
I've talked to Alan, and I've tried some things that he's made that are pretty cool.
And they said they were going to come on the Less Desirables and actually cut some. So I'm
you need to invite me for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you'll have an open invitation.
I love cured meat. Yeah, he did. Alan, he gave me some samples of some things he was doing, and one of which was cured duck breast. That was just absolutely delicious.
I bet.
So.
All right. Last thing I have here is what's your favorite food thing to write about?
I love a good story. And so, the cool thing is, there's the food, and, you can explaining how to cook it and how to buy it, how to shop at store and cook and all that stuff. But, sometimes there's a good story to go with it. Like I was telling, I was mentioning this woman, this 92-year-old woman that just wrote a cookbook. So I love discovering the people's stories and hearing their experiences with food, and how they learn to cook, or the memories they have associated with food, and their unusual family Thanksgiving tradition that they eat something crazy like oysters when all of us, the rest of us, are eating turkey, or I love hearing those stories. So that's what makes it fun and interesting.
Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being my first guest on the Man Who Ate the Town podcast. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be hanging out at some food pairings here soon, because it's getting ready to crank up, I'm sure. And thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
The Man Who Ate the Town podcast is part of the Less Desirables Network. Along with this podcast, you can listen to the Less Desirables, the Beer Dads, Fan Interference, and Sipping NC, The Art of Drinking. You can find all these podcasts and their latest episodes on our brand new website and directory, tldpodnetwork.com. You will find social media info and mini bios of each show in that one-stop shop. I'd also greatly appreciate if you visited my sponsor, Washington Perkin Provision Company. They have 2 locations, 228 West Acadia Avenue in Washington Park and 301 West 4th Street in downtown Winston-Salem. Did you know that they have fresh fruit and veggies? They have Homeland dairy products such as milk, cheese, and eggs. They have kombucha, juices, and a ton of Le Bleu water. Washington Park is better than a convenience store, but not quite a grocery store. Again, 2 locations, 228 West Acadia Avenue and 301 West 4th Street. And you can find them on the web at washingtonperk.com. Phew, I know that was a long show, but I think it was worth it. Michael was a great guest, and I really appreciate him being here. Keep an eye on my blog and this podcast to find out more about the food news and happenings around town. If you have any food news, send me an email, tim@themanwhoatethetown.com, or on our Facebook page or on our Twitter page. Again, thank you, Michael of the Winston-Salem Journal, for stopping by and joining me today. My name is Tim. I'm closing the recipe box. Until next time, thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. Sláinte. The views and opinions stated by me or any of my guests are solely those of ours and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of our hosting companies, distributors, enemies, friends, or relatives. This podcast is copyrighted and cannot be reproduced or distributed without express written consent of the man who ate the town, that's me, and Such Limited Inc. However, if you ask nicely, we'll probably let you.